Well, howdy again everyone. Now, something I always really enjoy doing is checking out Anamorphic Cine lenses. The more I try them out, the more I enjoy the video footage I can actually get out of them. It always looks so unique. Sirui are one of the main companies today who produce affordable anamorphic lenses, but today they're going a little bit more upmarket by launching a set of higher quality models, their IronStar series, in 35mm, 45mm and 60mm versions. Other lenses in the series with longer focal lengths are planned, I think, for next year. They're all full frame lenses. In fact, they're designed to give a larger than full frame image circle in order to reduce vignetting, but apparently they're not quite medium format lenses. Each of these lenses has a maximum aperture and light transmission of T1.9, so they let in a decent amount of light and give quite strongly out of focus backgrounds. They all offer a stretching ratio of 1.5 times, which is on a strong side. Therefore, they're only if you want to get very wide footage. They come with interchangeable lens mounts, so you can change them between PL mount and Canon EF mount at home by yourself. As I mentioned, these are intended to be higher quality mid-range anamorphic lenses, so each lens in the series will cost around $1,200 US. Today, I'm testing out the 60mm T1.9 version. If you look in the description below, for a limited time, there's going to be a crowdfunding campaign where early purchasers can find one of these lenses at a discount. I'll put the link down there for you. I'd like to thank Sirui very much for sending me an early production copy of this lens for evaluation, although as usual, this is a totally independent review. We'll be checking out both the lens's strengths and its weaknesses. Anamorphic lenses are there to give you a unique picture with a squeeze factor of 1.5 times, so this optic will certainly offer you that. They are not normally the sharpest lenses out there, simply because they're unusual optical formulas which squeeze in your horizontal image. You have to squeeze your video footage vertically back down in editing to leave you with a nice wide aspect ratio footage, if of course that's creatively what you're actually looking for. Doing things this way can preserve the final resolution of your footage, as you won't need to crop it to get a wider aspect ratio. These lenses also offer the oval-shaped elongated bokeh and big flaring effects, which are hallmarks of classic cinematography. Some people even say they like the extra distortion that anamorphic lenses tend to suffer from. So while these lenses might be an acquired taste, there's no denying that their video footage is distinctive, interesting and fairly attractive. Something I should mention is that, although this technically is a 60mm lens, on the horizontal axis you're getting the equivalent of a 40mm field of view because of the anamorphic squeezing, so your final footage when adjusted in editing will look wider than you might expect. Okay, with all those explanations out of the way, let's get down to checking out its build quality. This lens feels fantastic to work with. It's made of metal with very tight tolerances, its markings are properly etched in and look nice and clear, and it looks pretty good to boot. The front glass elements look amazing. This lens is bigger than some of the lower priced anamorphic optics available today. It's nice and chunky, but at a weight of about 1 kilogram or a bit over 2 pounds, it doesn't actually feel so heavy considering its size. This 60mm lens is going to be slightly longer than the 35 and 45mm versions, but their aperture and focus rings are all the same dimensions, enabling you to swap the lenses around on your camera rig easily, and they all have 92mm filter thread sizes, an unusual size. This 60mm lens is also a little heavier than the other two, but only by about 20 grams. They are pretty homogeneous. One useful design feature which I've mentioned already is that they all have interchangeable mounts, coming supplied with the parts to easily remount the lens between PL mount and Canon EF mount. So the lens could easily be mounted onto a Canon digital SLR if you wanted to, but more importantly, it's easily adapted onto mirrorless camera systems if you have the right adapter. I changed this lens from PL mount to Canon EF mount as soon as it got to my office using the supplied parts and instructions, and it took me about 10 minutes. It wasn't hard, so long as you follow those instructions. Within that mount mechanism, you also get access to a back focus adjustment ring, which handily allows you to change the flange distance and ensure that the lens's focus markings are absolutely correct, a feature you only tend to see on professional optics. Some other good news is that the lens features a bit more weather sealing than usual, with rubber gaskets protecting it both inside and out, so it should be dust and moisture resistant, but probably not waterproof. The aperture ring is geared for follow focus device compatibility, and it turns very smoothly and just a little heavily, being well damped. Something I always don't like is that the aperture settings are not spaced out evenly here, getting a little bit bunched up once you stop down to T11 and T16, although in use it doesn't tend to be a major problem. The lens's aperture mechanism has an impressive 16 iris blades to it. Then comes the focus ring. Unlike the aperture ring, you only see a marked focus point on the left-hand side of the lens here, but you do get markings in feet or in meters, and that focus ring again turns extremely smoothly with an enormously long throw, enabling you to focus very precisely. And as I mentioned already, you can adjust the lens's back focus too for extra accuracy in those markings. Unfortunately, the lens does display some focus breathing, as you can see here, which is a shame on a cine lens. The lens comes with a little removable tripod mount, which looks cool and could be useful. It also comes with a slip-on lens cap, which slips off a little more easily than I would have liked to see. It also comes with a carry bag and a strap, a cleaning cloth, and all the kit required to remount it from PL mount to EF mount and back again, if you so desire. As I mentioned already, its filter thread size is 92mm, and as a fully manual lens, it does not feature its own optical image stabilization or anything like that. Overall, the lens has absolutely wonderful build quality and good features. It's a nice step upwards from its less expensive alternatives, although I was disappointed to see that focus breathing. Alright, let's see about image quality then. I'll be testing it today on a full frame camera, my Canon EOS R5 with its 45 megapixel sensor. No in-camera corrections are available with this lens, and for anyone interested, I've put an appropriately squeezed image on the right so that you can see the resolution when your footage is squeezed back down. I'll also mention that 45 megapixels is actually overkill for a lens designed for video work. Remember, 4K video work requires only about 8 megapixels of resolution, and 8K video work only about 32 megapixels. Something else to remember here is that anamorphic lenses tend not to be razor sharp, especially in their image corners, simply due to their unusual optical design. Like other anamorphic lenses, this is designed for video work, not for getting high resolution still images. Okay, at T1.9 we see fairly sharp image quality with average contrast in the middle of your footage, although a little purple fringing is visible here on contrasting edges. Stop down to T2.2 though for a big improvement right away. Fringing is reduced and contrast is way better. Stop down to T2.8 for another improvement, but it's only at T4 that sharpness becomes perfect. So the lens will always be plenty sharp enough in the middle for 4K video work, but when shooting 8K, you might want to stop down just a little for the best possible resolution and contrast. Well, let's look over into the image corners. This is where pretty much all anamorphic lenses tend to struggle, and the IronStar is no exception, showing a lot of softness there. Here's T2.8 and T4. At T5.6 we see quite good sharpness, but colour fringing is on the strong side. And for anyone interested, here's T8 and T11. So, as usual for an anamorphic optic, we see a lot of corner softness here, but like I say, that's just normal for this kind of lens due to its unusual glass element design. For anyone interested, I did refocus the lens to get those corner shots by the way, although the lens actually has a pretty flat plane of focus. Alright, let's look at distortion and vignetting now. The lens projects a very normal distortion pattern for an anamorphic optic, a pinch in the horizontal edges and a bit of a bulge in the middle. However, that's lower than usual. I've seen much worse than this on other anamorphic lenses. Vignetting is also lower than normal. It's there at T1.9, but at T2.8 it's gone. So that's a better than usual performance for those two issues. Now, let's see about close-up image quality. The lens's minimum focus distance is a rather long 78 centimeters. Close-up image quality is about the same at T1.9 as it was at normal distances. T2.8 and T4 look a little crisper. Here's how the lens reacts against bright light. Like most other anamorphic optics out there, we get some lovely strong and decorative flaring. This is the blue flaring version of the lens, which is a nice subtle blue colour. You can also get neutral flaring. This is technically a weakness of the lens, but it's a deliberate one on a part of Sirui because most video makers who are interested in anamorphic shooting do want this effect. Next, bokeh. With its bright maximum aperture, you can get some pretty out of focus backgrounds here, especially with a full frame camera, and this is where one of the lens's biggest strengths lies. Its bokeh is extremely smooth, much smoother than I've seen on other anamorphic lenses, with only very minimal outlining to spherical highlights. I personally think it looks gorgeous, although obviously bokeh is a matter of taste. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. It's noticeable at T1.9 but not strong. Traces remain at T2.8, but at T4 it's finally gone. Okay then, overall I enjoyed using the IronStar lens. It's more expensive than the lower budget options out there, but it also enjoys better build quality and an interchangeable lens mount, which could be useful for cinematographers going around to different film sets. The adjustable back focus can be useful as well. I think its biggest advantage over competing lenses that I've tested so far is its very smooth quality bokeh. It's not performing any out-and-out miracles in the image sharpness department, which was a bit of a shame. As usual, for an anamorphic lens, we see soft image corners at brighter apertures. It also displays some focus breathing, but its distortion and vignetting is lower than usual, which is useful, and it has nice quality bokeh, and I do like its 1.5 times anamorphic ratio, which is strong without being extreme. It's not a wonder lens, but it is very enjoyable to use, captures nice footage, and is a step above its lower budget alternatives.